Well, hey everybody, this is Chris DeFurio with Keys to the Shop. Welcome to another edition of Shift Break. I hope you're having a really great day today. Today's episode of Shift Break is brought to you by the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. The Ground Control Cyclops Brewer is revolutionizing batch brew coffee and more because the SCA award-winning technology and the award-winning design of this machine allow you to have unprecedented control over a variety of flavors that you might not have ever thought possible with your coffee. On top of being able to really level up your batch brew and create a real differentiation in your cafe with the quality of your coffee, this machine also allows you to brew tea, hot cocoa, batched iced lattes, batched cold brew. And this is a all-around workhorse, showpiece, and batch brew game changer all in one. So if you're looking to upgrade your quality, efficiency, and versatility, then I highly recommend that you check out the Ground Control Cyclops Brewer from Voga Coffee. Go find out more information at their website, vogacoffee.com. That's VOGA coffee.com. Today's episode is also brought to you by Espressly. Espressly creates beautiful, functional, branded mobile apps for your business. The experience that people have with your mobile app should be similar to the experience they have in your store. That's not always the case though, but that's what Espressly provides you by combining the experience that they love about your brand with the convenience of mobile ordering, which is here to stay and something that I'm sure so many of us have explored for our businesses. It's a no-risk model. When you work with Espressly, there's no setup or development fees. You get drive-through payment scanners, receipt and label printing capabilities. It works with some of the world's best payment processing systems, stores the value in the app, and you get to keep all of the data. So this is a huge win for you if you're exploring mobile ordering for your business. I highly recommend that you check out Espressly. Go find out more information and sign up today over at espressly.co. That's espressly.co. Okay, everyone. Well, today I wanted to talk to you about how to talk to your customers about coffee. This is a huge subject. Obviously, we're not going to cover every single aspect of how to talk about coffee with your customers in a shift break. But I wanted to cover some majors and really do it in light of the fact that for a long time now in this COVID economy, people have been exploring with coffee at home. People have been generating a certain level of excitement of going back into a coffee bar and educating themselves on coffee as they've become home baristas. And so all of this energy that's kind of been put into those areas and that scarcity of the experience is going to mean that people are going to be a little bit more willing to talk about coffee as they enter into your cafes, as they interact with you online. And I wanted to sort of zero in on some things that I think are really critical to consider as you are training your staff and yourself to talk about coffee. Now, the first rule really is that you need to meet people where they are. And you can't really meet people where they are unless you find out where they are. You can assume that they don't know very much about coffee. You can assume based on a lot of things. Sometimes we make assumptions based on the way people look, the way they carry themselves. But in my experience, it's often a very shaky way to assess where somebody is. Often the best course of action is to ask questions. So with the idea in mind that we need to find out where people are so that we can meet them there, sort of getting their coordinates. And so you need to learn how to ask questions that guide them into a certain decision. And really, it's not so much that you're guiding them into a decision about coffee, is that you're guiding yourself to be able to give them a suggestion about coffee that will fit with where they are. Because most people don't ask themselves these questions. The questions are things like, what kind of flavors do you like in coffees? What do you find yourself drinking more? Like lighter, darker coffees, maybe something heavier. Historically, what have you purchased at a cafe that you really love? And when people give you answers, you need to immediately take their answers and aggregate them through a system of filters, you know? So if they say, I usually get large lattes, you might accurately assess that this person is somebody who might be a little bit off-put by something that's super powerful in taste. If they say something about how they really like a dark roast or they really like a light roast, that's easier. But there's nuances there too. If somebody says with an emphatic tone, I really love dark roast. Just the smokiness, like watch their body language, watch their eyes and the intensity with which they describe it. If they're ambivalent towards it, maybe they like something more medium. They're not looking for something that's going to punch them in the mouth with either acidity or with smoke. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. But I've talked to lots of people where their intensity in their body language shows me that if I show them the Sumatra, if I show them our dark roast, they're really going to enjoy that. So you have to filter the responses to these questions to fit them with the right coffee. Now, we're all about trying to usher people into a place where they can have that buy-in moment voluntarily themselves. And that's part of how we want to show hospitality, is not overwhelm people with the amount of information that we know or we want them to know. We need to make them successful in coffee, just like we want to make our staff successful in coffee. And part of how you make somebody successful as a consumer is you give them something to consume that they like. That's a success. That's somebody who is enjoying your coffee, and you can call that a win. Maybe later in their life, they're going to care about the nuances and details about the origin, about the values of your company toward transparency and fair trade and everything else. But right now, you've got to make sure that you're meeting them where they are. And if that's what they lead with, then that's how you respond. So that's the basic rule here. Another thing that you need to realize is that when you ask questions and you get answers, you have to know that you need to be bilingual in this way. Not just speak the language of coffee to your friends and baristas online or whatever, but be able to speak the language of your customers. And language is determined by your culture and how you were brought up. So you need to be able to speak Starbucks. You need to be able to speak Tim Hortons or Pete's Coffee or whatever other larger chain coffee the customer is likely introduced to coffee through, even if it's something that's similar to another small independent coffee shop. Our role as professionals is to know what's going on so that when somebody says something to us that they think is accurate, but it actually isn't, we're not going to shame them for not speaking our language. We're going to translate that and say, do you want this classic example, caramel macchiato? Well, we can make you this. Maybe you can make a version of that at your bar, or you can make them a caramel latte. And usually that goes very well because you're seeking to meet them where they are, not try to get them to where you are. You see, so that's humility, and that's leadership, and that's hospitality. And so you need to cross-train yourself and know the culture around you to say, I can identify that dialect. I know where they're coming from, and I know at the root of it, what they're looking for is a taste experience that is similar, and I know the equivalent here, and I'll be able to guide them into this experience. So really, we're being actively empathetic. We're training ourselves to be able to respond with accuracy, with hospitality, and empathy, and that's how we meet people where they are, and it's how we get people to come back to where we are. And this happens all the time in coffee, where you just kind of edit yourself as a professional and you don't say all the things you want to say, but eventually you get to say those things as that person builds trust in you, in the organization, and there's people that you'll start in drip coffee and they work their way to single origin espresso. But here's the thing, those might be success stories because that person, it feels like they're more into coffee now and like, oh, we made a convert to coffee because they're not drinking that thing that they used to drink. I think that's a little faulty. We can't really hold one example above the other. Like the testimonial of the person who drank large caramel lattes who now drinks single origin espresso sounds like a real success story. But we have to be of the mindset that either one of those people, even if they never got rid of their caramel latte, they're not an experiment. They're not a project customer. They're a legit customer with a legit taste for coffee that we offer. And we should be proud to have them be a customer no matter what they're getting at our coffee bar, without these secret little plots and schemes we've got for converting them to our way of doing coffee. So maybe it is kind of problematic to think about it that way. I really think the metric for success is purely that the customer feels empowered to enjoy something thoroughly, and they don't really have to convince themselves that they enjoy it because we're giving them a guilt trip about coffee. We're meeting them where they are, and I think that's the first step in welcoming people into our spaces. And whatever happens in the future, 2021 onward, this is the kind of thing that we really need to emphasize to our staff, to ourselves, and constantly nurture. So I hope that this episode was helpful for you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me, and I'll see you here next week on another edition of Shift Break, from keys to the shop.